The ACC could be there for the taking for anybody. Could Georgia Tech be one of those teams? Kenton Gibbs of Locked On ACC is here with me to discuss that very notion. So I'm intrigued by the Yellowjackets, Kenton, because this is a program that's been down for a while, but is starting to pull their way out, up by their bootstraps, if you will, and kind of climb out of the depths of despair. I don't think they are there yet, but I take note when a coach goes to a program and it hasn't been winning a lot recently, and Brent Key has, number one, started to win there. That's always a good sign. But then number two, I see the recruiting rankings going up, up, up. It was 61, then it was 33. They pulled in a top 25 high school recruiting class in 2025, Kenton. Do you think this is kind of the foundational year for Georgia Tech to take that next step forward?
Absolutely, but I think that we need to manage that with what does a foundational year for the next step look like, right? Like, yes, they're building in the right direction. The recruiting classes are coming. They have some absolute studs starting at the most important position in the game, a guy who's been in college since you and me been in college, Spencer, and my boy Haynes over there, Haynes King, if you don't know, he's been in college for forever, but he is a hell of a quarterback. You know, he's the type of guy comes in a game where he's injured and they said, oh, he won't be able to throw the ball much. And I'm like, well, what are they going to use him for as a quarterback who can't throw the ball much? Oh, nothing much, just a giant battering ram of a ball carrier. And somehow that made sense. But with that as your foundation, people say the team takes on the temperament of the head coach. When you think about Brent Key, who is he? Former offensive lineman. Very tough
guy.
Hard-nosed
tough guy.
Exactly. And he can recruit his ass off. I'm telling you, if you have not been to ACC Media Days, if you have not watched any videos from ACC Media Days, watch any of them, including Brent Key. And I guarantee you're going to feel like you can run through a wall. You don't need pre-workout when you could just listen to Brent Key talk about, what his team had done. And you think about who he is and where he took this team from. He took over in the middle of the season. He did not get the team bowl eligible, but he won 4 of 8 games. That was the first time that they'd won 4 games in that small of a stretch since Paul Johnson was running the triple option.
It's been a while.
So Brent Key is the key, and then he's bringing in guys that fit what he wants. Jamal Haynes, an undersized running back that he doesn't play like it. He may be undersized when you look at him, when he steps on the scale, when he does all the measuring things next year at the combine. People are going to say, wow, he's a little sawed off. You know what he doesn't play like? A sawed off running back. He plays big and powerful and fast. And, of course, a receiving core that even with the loss of one of the fastest receivers in the nation, an absolute burner, they just replace him with a guy like Eric Rivers. They just keep coming with a guy like Rutherford. They just are who they are. And the only thing that I would say about Georgia Tech, just manage your expectations because they're getting better. They're getting there. But to take over the ACC, you have to overtake the top dogs. And right now, TDE is Clemson. They're the top dogs right now. And so, you're going to have to it's not going to be easy to take over that top spot from them because they're not going to give it up easily. But they are on their way. And like you said, the groundwork, the foundation has been laid. If we're talking about this like it's a new home build, they're past the part where the couple stands there looking all stupid with the little shovel. Where they're like, oh, we're here helping out. No, you're not. You're not doing it. But we're beyond that part. We're to where the foundation is being set for a potentially very good program in the future.
Yeah, and I think the recruiting potential is so interesting because of where they're located in the Atlanta area. And down in Georgia, you get a lot of big-time recruits. And their most high-profile recruit in the 25 cycle, I don't know if he starts this year or not, but Josh Petty is a 5-star by some services, a borderline 5-star by everybody else. But he's a guy that Ohio State was going after, one of the top 10 offensive tackles in the class. And he goes to Georgia Tech. That's when I first turned my head, kind of went, wait, what? They got who? Oh, well, hey, that's it. Hey, look, Georgia Tech's starting to recruit a little bit in there. So the Yellowjackets have one of the most favorable schedules in ACC play in the entire league, Kenton. I think the discrepancy between their schedule and Miami's schedule is insane. It's insane.
Right.
It's totally and completely crazy because Georgia Tech does not play Miami, does not play Louisville, has Clemson at home, and you look at the rest of their schedule and go, boy, it kind of seems like a lot of their toughest games are at home. Their road slate is Boston College, NC State, Duke will be tough, Wake Forest, first-year head coach. That's the ACC road slate. That's it. So they've got some high-profile non-conference games, but when we're talking about building a program and elevating, I asked you to begin this segment, is this kind of that next step foundational year? That's part of the reason that I wonder. You've got a veteran quarterback who's going to run out of eligibility. You've got a favorable schedule. It's not your first year. I don't know that talent-wise they're sitting top 3 or 4 in the ACC, but they might finish top 3 or 4 in the ACC just because of those factors. You got a coach in his 3rd full season at the helm, a quarterback that knows what he's doing, who's familiar with this system, by the way. I think all the pieces are there for this, maybe not to be, an 11-1 sort of campaign. They have Georgia on the schedule as always. They have to play Colorado as well in a fascinating non-conference matchup. But I think all the pieces are there for this to be the sort of 9-10 win season that you look back and say, hey, that was the first year Georgia Tech got on everybody's radar.
Well, yeah, and I want to push back on something you said there. They're not a top 3 or 4 team talent-wise in the ACC. They absolutely are in terms of
You think so?
In terms of top-end talent, absolutely. Now, when you get to depth, that's where the fall-off happens. And you're like, oh, man, like if they sustain 1 or 2 injuries at key spots, you're not looking at the same team there. But in terms of top-end talent, like if we're playing NCAA 25 and we turn injuries off, I definitely say they're one of the top teams in that regard. Now, in terms of that 9-10 win season you're talking about, absolutely. And again, this is what I'm saying in terms of just set your expectations properly. Because if you set your expectations for this to be an 8-9 win team, you could be pleasantly surprised. If you set your expectations that, they're in Georgia, they've got the talent, they're taking guys from SEC schools and all that and doing a hell of a job with it, they're going to be the ACC champs. You may walk away disappointed. You may walk away, with your head hanging down about a squad that's on the rise. They're going in the right direction. They're doing all the things that you need to do to build up a program, and it's not very quick. It's coming over years, but it's coming that way for a reason. Georgia Tech's academic rigor is different from most of the other major schools that we think of. And when you think about the Brainiac schools, most of them are terrible at football for a reason. Georgia Tech is trying to buck that trend, and it's not going to be easy to do so, but look at Coach Key. Everything that you want is on the other side of hard, and bro, that man is getting that team tough and ready to get to the other side of hard.
So, Ken, you might know better than me. I want to get you out of here on this. Top 5 rosters in the ACC. Off my head, I'd probably say Clemson 1 with how much they're bringing back. Miami and Louisville, to me, have to be up there. Would you really put Georgia Tech in that next rung of teams?
I think Georgia Tech, again, top-end talent. If we're just talking about your 2 deep only, they have to be in that category. And as a matter of fact, I'd even say they're competing with Louisville in that regard. I'd say them and Louisville are kind of right there neck and neck. Clemson, class of the conference, is different.
Yeah.
Miami always has talent. Even when they're not a good team, they always have talent. It's just kind of where they are, how they exist. Cool. Louisville is one of those teams that they maximize their talent, but they always get good talent as well. I think Georgia Tech, in terms of top-end talent, is right there. When you talk about the depth, I would say that separates Louisville to put them over Georgia Tech in that regard. But I think that, again, Georgia Tech is a damn good team. I'm expecting them to be good this year. To me, anything less than 8 wins out of this season is a complete and utter disappointment for Georgia Tech. Because like you said, the schedule is favorable and all the stars are aligned. You've got senior quarterback. You've got experienced running back. You've got a very experienced running back room in general. You've got wide receivers that have done all. You lose one burner and replace him with a guy that's averaging damn near 20 yards per catch. Oh, boy. I just don't know what we're going to do with this Rivers kid. So you've got a ton of guys that are primed and ready and saying, hey, this is our last thing. This is the last thing that we got to do. If we're going to set a pace and set a difference for Georgia Tech, this may not be the team to win them the ACC, but I want you to think about this for all my college football fans out there. T. Martin won the championship at Tennessee. Peyton Manning did not.
Gosh, that's a good way to look at it. Now, that was then, this is now. But hey, Stetson Bennett won 2 national championships in a row. No one's saying that he should have been the first overall pick in the NFL. I don't even know if he's made a roster in the NFL. College football is different like that. I like that you bring up Eric Rivers from FIU. I think that's probably the most important transfer for Georgia Tech. Even though they're a run-heavy team, you still have to have that threat. And Haynes King hopefully can take that, another step forward or so as a passer. You're still pretty good last year. But I'm curious to see how Rivers works out. They also have to replace Romello Height, who went to Texas Tech. Talk about top transfers for every team, which I do regularly here on the show. Romello Height at Texas Tech, probably the biggest guy that the Red Raiders have brought in, because he's someone that changes what they have in the trenches, and that's where they've kind of been lacking over the last couple of seasons.